The storm doesn't destroy the chosen, it reveals them. Yet here you are, still questioning, still doubting, still looking for signs, when the universe has already declared its verdict. You passed the test, but instead of stepping into your power, you hesitate. Instead of owning your path, you question it. How many more times do you need to be told? How many more battles do you need to win before you realize what's happening? The delays weren't punishment. The betrayals weren't accidents. The struggles weren't random. Every single thing you went through was part of the process, designed not to break you, but to prove you. And now that the universe has given you the green light, you sit there confused. Enough. Wake up. Own it. You are chosen. And listen, chosen one. Being chosen isn't just an honor, it's a responsibility. The universe didn't set you apart just for you to keep this power to yourself. Others are still trapped in the fog, searching for their path, unaware that they too have been called. It's time to wake them up. Press the like and subscribe button to signal the algorithm, to spread the call, to awaken more chosen ones. The more we unite, the stronger we become. They tried to stop you. They tried to break you. They sent obstacles, delays, betrayals, thinking you would fall. But what they didn't know is that you weren't just surviving, you were being forged. The fire they sent to burn you only made you stronger. The pressure they applied didn't crush you, it refined you. They weren't fighting you, they were fighting the universe itself. And now, the universe has made its decision. You passed the test. Imagine walking into an exam room, no study guide, no warning, no preparation, yet somehow, without even realizing it, you scored 100%. That's exactly what just happened. While you were navigating chaos, the universe was grading your resilience. While they underestimated you, the universe was qualifying you. You weren't just struggling, you were passing a test they didn't even know existed. And now, the results are in. You're ready. But let's get one thing straight. This isn't just about stepping into a new season. This isn't just about good things coming your way. No, this is bigger than that. This is the kind of readiness that shakes the foundation of everything around you. The kind of transformation that makes your enemies restless. The kind of shift that forces the universe to move on your behalf. They thought they were blocking you. They were actually clearing the way. They thought they were tearing you down. They were actually building your strength. They thought they were stopping you. They were actually accelerating your rise. That's the power of being chosen. You don't beg for the spotlight. You become the light. And that light, it haunts your enemies, because deep down, they always knew. They saw something in you before you saw it in yourself. That's why they tried so hard to stop you. That's why they threw everything they had your way. It was never about what you did. It was about who you are. They could feel it. The power, the purpose, the calling that set you apart. And now they have to watch as you step fully into it. There's no undoing what's already been written. No blocking what's already been set in motion. So don't shrink, don't second guess, don't hesitate. The universe has spoken. You have been tested, you have been chosen. And to you, the one they mocked, the one they doubted, the one they swore would never make it, look where you are now. Whether you've been here from the start or just found your way, know this: your rise is unstoppable. If you're ready to watch their faces twist in disbelief as they realize the joke's on them, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and comment the number 77 to claim your power. And now, let's dive in step by step. And trust me, if you're truly chosen, you'll feel the pull to stay till the end. Let's get started. Number 1. They laughed while you bled. Now watch their smiles fade. The worst mistake they made wasn't underestimating you. It was assuming the universe wasn't watching. They mocked your struggle. They rolled their eyes at your setbacks. They whispered behind your back, convinced you were failing. They thought they had you figured out, a lost cause, a tragic story, just another dreamer who would never make it. But what they didn't realize, you weren't failing. You were being tested in a language they could never understand. While they laughed, the universe took notes. While they dismissed you, the system was aligning. They thought they were playing you, but they were playing against a force far greater than them. And now, the joke's on them. They saw the pain, but they didn't see the process. They saw the delays, but they didn't see the preparation. They thought you were losing, but in reality, you were being positioned. You didn't go through random struggles. You went through a calculated, intentional transformation. The universe doesn't waste challenges on the unworthy. Every setback was a carefully placed test, designed for one reason, to prove you. And what did you do? You stood firm when everything told you to fall. You kept walking when the road disappeared beneath you. You believed when there was no reason left to believe. That is why you were chosen. Not because of luck, not because of shortcuts, but because you passed the kind of test that most people don't even realize exists. The kind of test that can't be measured in applause or approval. The kind of test that happens in the dark, with no witnesses, no rewards, and no validation. Only resistance, silence, and suffering. They laughed while you bled, but now they're silent because the results are in. And let's get something straight. This wasn't just about endurance. This wasn't about barely making it to the finish line. This was about who you became in the process. Because the universe wasn't looking for just anyone. It was searching for the unshakable, the unstoppable, the ones who don't break, no matter how much pressure is applied. You see, being chosen isn't a gift. It's a consequence of standing tall when the weight should have crushed you. A consequence of holding your vision when the world told you to let it go. A consequence of refusing to quit when quitting seemed like the only logical option. And now everything changes, because the universe never wastes readiness. They can question you, they can doubt you, but they can't stop what's already been set in motion. They were laughing at you before, but have you noticed? That laughter has stopped. The same ones who mocked your struggle will soon be the ones pretending they always believed in you. The same ones who dismissed you will suddenly act like they knew all along. But deep down, they know the truth. They see it now. The power in your eyes, the shift in your presence, the undeniable force that surrounds you. Because when the universe declares you ready, no force on this planet can hold you back. Number 2, they counted you out, but the universe was keeping score. They measured you by earthly standards. The universe measured you by something greater, and now the results are in. They looked at your life and assumed they had you figured out. They judged you by what they could see: wealth, influence, status. They thought these were the markers of success. And because you didn't fit their mold, they dismissed you. They called you a failure. They pitied you. Some even laughed behind your back. Because in their world, success is loud. It shines. It boasts. It demands attention. But the universe doesn't operate like that. The real test wasn't in what you gained. It was in what you endured. While they were obsessed with numbers and titles, the universe was grading you on something they could never understand. Your patience when nothing made sense. Your endurance when quitting seemed like the best option. Your integrity when compromise could have given you an easy way out. Your trust when every sign told you to doubt. They saw your delays, but the universe saw your discipline. They saw your losses, but the universe saw your resilience. They saw your struggles, but the universe saw your transformation. And this is why they never understood your journey. They expected you to play by their rules. They expected you to chase the same empty validation they worship. They thought success was about being seen, being applauded, being approved by them. But you were never playing their game. You were being positioned for something far greater. And now, the joke's on them. Because while they spent their time chasing hollow victories, you were passing tests they didn't even know existed. Every time you stayed true to your path, while others took shortcuts. Every time you remained faithful when doubt whispered in your ear. Every time you stood tall when the weight of your trials should have crushed you, you were proving yourself, not to the world, not to the doubters, not even to yourself. You were proving yourself to the universe. And here's the thing about divine testing. The universe doesn't hand out empty promotions. Some doors had to close because they would have led you away from your purpose. Some people had to leave because they would have poisoned your journey. Some prayers had to go unanswered because what you wanted would have destroyed what you needed. What felt like a loss was actually protection. What looked like rejection was actually redirection. What seemed like delay was actually divine strategy. And now, the time for waiting is over. They thought you were stuck. They thought you were lost. They thought you had failed. But the universe was never keeping score the way they did. It didn't care about their approval. It didn't care about their judgment. It didn't care about their standards. Because when the universe says you're ready, no one can say otherwise. No amount of gossip, doubt, or opposition can undo what's already been set in motion. No force on this earth can block the next phase of your rise. No enemy, no hater, no obstacle can stand against what is already yours. And now, watch their faces. Watch how they scramble to rewrite the story. Watch how they try to act like they always believed in you. Watch how their laughter turns into silence. Because deep down, they know. You proved them all wrong. Number 3. They thought the silence meant you were forgotten. Now they'll see what it really meant. The worst part for them, realizing that while they were laughing at your struggle, you were silently being prepared for something far beyond their reach. They assumed you were lost. They whispered that you had no direction, no guidance, no future. They thought the silence around you meant you had been abandoned. But the universe was never absent. It was observing. See, when a student takes a test, the teacher doesn't interrupt. There are no hints, no extra instructions. The student must rely on what they've already learned. That's exactly what was happening to you. You were being examined in silence. No signs, no breakthroughs, no immediate rewards, just silence. And while others panicked and assumed you were being ignored, you stayed steady. They didn't understand. They saw nothing moving and assumed nothing was happening. But real tests don't come with announcements. The universe needed to see what you would do when the answers weren't obvious. Would you stay faithful when no one was clapping for you? Would you trust the process when every voice told you to quit? Would you move with conviction when everything around you was still? That silence was never punishment. It was proof of your preparation. Because the chosen aren't spoon-fed. The chosen aren't given shortcuts. The chosen aren't handed success on a silver platter. The chosen must prove they can withstand the silence. And now, your silence is over. While they wasted their breath questioning your journey, the universe was finalizing your results. And the results are in. You didn't just pass. You didn't just scrape by. You mastered the test. The silence they mocked, that was your proving ground. They thought nothing was happening. They thought you were standing still. They thought their words, their doubts, their ridicule had some kind of power over you. They were wrong, because now the silence has shifted. The page has turned, and what's coming next? It's loud. The same ones who thought you were finished? The same ones who laughed behind your back? The same ones who assumed they had won? They're about to see what silence really meant. While they were busy gossiping, you were building. While they were wasting their breath, you were strengthening. While they thought they had left you behind, you were becoming unstoppable. And now they have to watch, because when the universe declares you ready, there is no discussion. No opinions can override what has already been decided. No opposition can stand in the way of what has already been activated. No enemy, no hater, no doubter can block what is already set in motion. They played their game. They laughed at your stillness. They assumed their words mattered. But the universe has spoken, and now watch their faces. Watch how their confidence fades. Watch how their disbelief settles in. Watch how they scramble to make sense of what they swore would never happen. Because you didn't just survive the silence, you mastered it, and now they'll never doubt you again. Number 4. They thought your mistakes meant you were losing, but every wrong turn was part of the plan. They laughed at your struggles because they thought you were lost. Now they're realizing you were following a map they couldn't even see. They shook their heads when you stumbled. They whispered when things didn't go as planned. They called you reckless, misguided, a failure. They thought your wrong turns were proof that you weren't meant to succeed. But here's what they never understood. Not every setback is a mistake. Some detours aren't accidents. Some obstacles aren't bad luck. Some failures aren't failures at all. They are tests, preset questions designed to prepare you for exactly where you're meant to go. That betrayal, it wasn't just a painful experience, it was a question. Will you let this make you bitter, or will you let it make you better? That delay, it wasn't just frustrating, it was a test. Do you trust the timing of the universe, or will you try to force what isn't ready? That loss? It wasn't just a chapter closing, it was a choice. Will you hold on to what's gone, or will you step forward into what's next? Every time you thought you were failing, you were actually answering. Every time you thought you were lost, you were actually proving yourself. Every time you thought you were stuck, you were actually being positioned. And now, the results are in. You didn't fail. You didn't fall short. You passed. Because success in the eyes of the universe isn't about perfection, it's about perseverance. You weren't punished. You were prepared. You weren't blocked. You were being built. You weren't abandoned. You were being aligned. Every delay was pushing you into position. Every betrayal was exposing who couldn't go with you. Every closed door was protecting what was meant for you. But they couldn't see that. All they saw was what looked like failure. And now, they have to watch as everything shifts. Because the universe doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't waste tests. It doesn't set up chosen ones to fail. And now they have to face the truth. You were never lost. You were never failing. You were always being prepared. And now, there is no stopping what comes next. They thought they had the right to judge your journey. They thought they could write you off because of what they saw. They thought your struggles meant you were done. They were wrong. Your wrong turns weren't wrong at all. They were the exact steps that led you here. And now, there is no going back. No enemy can undo your preparation. No obstacle can block your elevation. No one can question what has already been decided. So let them watch. Watch how their doubt turns to confusion. Watch how their laughter fades into silence. Watch how they realize the joke was on them all along, because you were never losing. You were just getting ready. Number 5. They saw nothing, but you were earning everything. The most dangerous ones are those who suffer in silence, sacrifice in private, and rise without warning. They thought they had you figured out. They assumed if they didn't see progress, there was none. If they didn't hear your struggles, you weren't fighting. If they didn't witness your sacrifices, they didn't exist. But their ignorance wasn't your concern, because the universe was keeping track. While they sought validation, you sought discipline. While they performed for applause, you trained in the shadows. While they flaunted their achievements, you built foundations they couldn't even see. Because real power isn't proven in the spotlight, it's forged in the dark. Every battle you fought alone, every tear no one saw, every time you bit your tongue instead of lashing out, every moment you stayed true to your path while others took shortcuts, it all counted. The world measures success by what's seen. The universe measures success by what's sacrificed. And you weren't just passing the test. You were earning extra credit, not for attention, not for applause, not for temporary validation, but because the universe always rewards the ones who do the work when no one is watching. While they were broadcasting their half-earned victories, you were stacking quiet wins. While they sought comfort, you embraced discipline. While they settled, you kept pushing. That's what separates the chosen. Not just endurance, not just resilience, but the will to go beyond what's expected. And now, the results are in. You didn't just pass. You didn't just survive. You exceeded every expectation. They won't understand it. They'll question how you got here. They'll assume you got lucky, that you had a shortcut they didn't, because they can't comprehend what they never saw. They don't know the nights you wrestled with doubt, but still got up the next morning. They don't know the opportunities you walked away from because they didn't align with your purpose. They don't know the discipline, the restraint, the patience it took to stay the course. And now, they don't get to know. Because the truth is, you don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them proof of your suffering. You don't owe them a breakdown of your sacrifices. You don't owe them a backstory for your success. You earned this. And the most poetic part, they'll have to watch in confusion as you rise, never truly understanding how you did it. Let them wonder, let them assume, let them doubt, because while they're stuck questioning, you'll be too far ahead to answer. The universe saw everything. The universe counted everything, and now no one can take away what's already yours. Number 6. They thought the battle would bury you. Now they're watching you rise. They didn't just want to see you struggle. They wanted to see you gone, but the universe had other plans. Some battles weren't just hard. They were meant to erase you, the kind of warfare designed to break your mind, crush your spirit, and make you question everything. It wasn't just about struggle. It wasn't just about hardship. It was about survival. And yet, you're still here. They counted on the weight being too much. They assumed you'd fold under pressure. They whispered behind your back, certain you wouldn't make it through. They were waiting for your downfall. But instead, you endured. You outlived the storm. You outlasted the attack. And now, you're walking into victory. And let's be clear, this wasn't luck. This wasn't coincidence. This was power. Because no battle hits that hard unless you're a threat. No opposition rises that strong unless you carry something worth fearing. They thought they could break you because they assumed you didn't know who you were. They thought they could stop you because they underestimated what was inside you. But they weren't just fighting you. They were fighting against something bigger than them. And now, the truth is clear. You weren't just tested. You weren't just attacked. You were targeted, and that's the biggest proof of your power. Because weak people don't face this level of warfare. Insignificant people don't draw this kind of resistance. If you weren't dangerous, they wouldn't have come for you this hard. Think about it. The lies, the betrayals, the setups, the losses. It wasn't random. It was strategy. They weren't just hoping you'd struggle. They were hoping you'd break. They weren't just trying to slow you down, they were trying to take you out completely. They weren't just doubting you, they were doing everything in their power to make you doubt yourself. And yet, here you stand. That's what eats them up the most. Because by their logic, you shouldn't even be here. You shouldn't have survived what you did. You shouldn't have recovered from the setbacks. You shouldn't have had the strength to keep going. But you did. And now, they have to watch as you rise. See, what they don't realize is that every attack had the opposite effect. Every battle made you stronger. Every betrayal made you wiser. Every loss sharpened your vision. What was meant to break you only built you. They wanted you to collapse, but instead you evolved. And now, you're unstoppable. Because when you outlive the warfare that was meant to destroy you, there is no force left that can stand in your way. You don't just survive, you dominate. You don't just endure, you elevate. You don't just win, you rewrite the game entirely. And now, they have to deal with the reality they never wanted to face. They didn't break you, they fueled you, they strengthened you, they unknowingly positioned you. And the worst part? Now, they have no power over you. Because when you've survived the fire, there's nothing left to fear. So let them watch, let them whisper, let them struggle to process what they swore would never happen. Because this time, the battle isn't yours, it's theirs. And the hardest thing for them to accept, they already lost. Number 7, they had the answers, but you had the trust. And that's why you passed. Knowing the way is easy. Walking it when the road disappears beneath your feet. That's what separates the chosen from the rest. They thought they were smarter than you. They thought because they read more, studied more, memorized more, that they were ahead. They had all the knowledge. But when everything collapsed, when the storm hit, when the world went silent, they crumbled. Because knowing something and trusting it are two different things. Anyone can talk about endurance, but can they keep going when their world is falling apart? Anyone can preach about patience, but can they stay still when every impulse screams at them to run? Anyone can claim strength, but can they stand tall when everything is trying to break them? That was the real test. Not just what you knew, but what you could hold on to when the ground was shaking beneath you. The universe wasn't grading you on how many answers you had memorized. It wasn't looking at how well you spoke, how impressive you sounded, or how many facts you could recite. It was looking at your trust. Because trust isn't about having proof, it's about standing firm when proof is nowhere to be found. And that's why you passed. They thought the test was about knowledge. You knew better. It was about who could hold on when there was nothing left to hold on to. And while others panicked, while others doubted, while others walked away from their own path because they couldn't see the finish line, you stayed. They mocked you for it. They called you foolish. They thought you were wasting your time. But look at you now, still standing, still moving, still rising. And now, watch their faces. Because the universe doesn't promote those who quit halfway. It doesn't reward those who only believe when things are easy. It doesn't elevate those who only trust when everything is going their way. It promotes the ones who stayed steady when the world shook around them. And you earned this. Because trust isn't just belief, it's action. It's staying the course when every shortcut looks tempting. It's moving forward when every sign tells you to turn back. It's choosing the long road when the quick fix is right there. They thought you were losing. They thought you were behind. They thought you were missing out while they were racing ahead. But the universe saw what they couldn't. The quick road leads to nowhere. The shortcuts always come with a cost. The ones who try to rush their way to the top always end up falling the hardest. They had the knowledge. But knowledge without trust is useless. Because the moment things got hard, they folded. They questioned everything. They ran back to comfort while you kept walking. They looked for an escape while you stood firm. That's why you're being elevated, and they're stuck wondering why. They thought they had it all figured out. But what good is a map if you refuse to walk the path? What good is knowledge if the first obstacle makes you throw it all away? The universe wasn't looking for the smartest. It was looking for the unshakable. And that's you. They spent so much time doubting you. They thought because they couldn't see your progress, nothing was happening. But the ones who trust don't need to see the next step to take it. They don't need confirmation to keep moving. They don't need validation to stay the course. They don't need proof to know they're on the right path. That's the power of trust. And now everything is shifting, because when the universe finds someone who refuses to quit, it moves on their behalf. No longer will you have to prove yourself. No longer will you have to explain. No longer will you have to convince anyone of who you are, because the evidence will speak for itself. They had the answers. They had the knowledge, but you had the trust. And that's why you passed. And now, watch their faces. Watch how they try to make sense of your rise. Watch how they scramble to understand what happened. Watch how their confidence turns into regret, because they see it now. They see that what really mattered wasn't just knowing the way, it was trusting it enough to walk it. And that's why you're moving forward while they're stuck. Because in the end, the universe doesn't reward those who only believe when it's easy. It rewards the ones who trust no matter what. Number 8. They thought you were stuck. Now they'll see you were being positioned. The delay wasn't to stop you, it was to outmaneuver them. And now, while they thought they had the advantage, you're about to leave them in the dust. They laughed at how long it was taking. They mocked your patience, whispered that you were wasting your time, and told you to settle for less. They thought the delays meant you were losing, that you were stuck, that you had missed your chance, but they didn't understand. The universe wasn't holding you back. It was setting you up. What looked like waiting to them was actually alignment in progress. The right moves weren't available yet. The right doors hadn't been unlocked. The right people weren't in position. You weren't just waiting. You were being strategically withheld from things that weren't meant for you. Because getting something at the wrong time is just as dangerous as never getting it at all. And now, while they're busy thinking you're still behind, everything is about to shift. Because you weren't being delayed, you were being protected. Some doors had to stay shut no matter how much you wanted them to open. Some connections had to break, no matter how much history you shared. Some opportunities had to pass you by, no matter how perfect they looked on the surface. Why? Because settling too soon would have cost you something greater. You thought you were being overlooked, but the truth is, you were being reserved for something bigger. And now, the ones who doubted, the ones who rolled their eyes and said, "Look at them, still waiting?" They're about to see that you weren't waiting. You were being sharpened. They thought they were ahead of you. They thought they had outpaced you. But the delay was a setup, a pause designed to position you so precisely that when the moment came, you would move in ways they never saw coming. Because the universe doesn't rush what it values. And you are valuable. You weren't forgotten. You weren't left behind. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned for something they can't even comprehend. Because when the universe aligns a chosen one, the shift is so massive, so undeniable, that everyone feels it. And that's exactly what's about to happen. The same people who laughed at your waiting season are about to choke on their own disbelief. The same ones who mocked your patience are about to wish they had moved like you. The same ones who swore they had surpassed you are about to realize you weren't even in the same race. Because when the universe is setting you up, the process looks nothing like what they expect. They measured progress by speed. They thought movement meant success. They assumed that because you were still, you weren't winning. But the most dangerous moves, the most powerful shifts, they happen in silence. While they rushed ahead thinking speed was the answer, you were gathering something far more powerful than momentum. You were gathering precision. Because when you move at the right time, with the right purpose, backed by the right alignment, you don't just win, you dominate. And now, the delay is over. That shift you felt but couldn't explain, that sudden urgency that's waking you up in the middle of the night, that pull towards something greater, it's here. And they won't understand it at first. They'll say you got lucky. They'll try to downplay it. They'll act like it came out of nowhere. But you know the truth. This isn't luck. This isn't random. This isn't some overnight miracle. This is the result of everything you survived. Every moment of doubt you pushed through. Every time you kept believing when it made no sense. Every second you held on when it felt like nothing was happening. You weren't losing time. You were investing it. And now it's time to collect. Watch their faces as they realize you weren't behind. You were ahead the entire time. Watch their disbelief as they see doors opening for you that they never even knew existed. Watch their silence as they struggle to understand how you moved so fast. Because what they thought was a delay, it was a strategy. And now the only thing left for them to do is watch you rise. Number 9. They thought rejection would break you. Now they have to watch it make you. The biggest plot twist. They thought they were burying you, but they were actually planting you. Rejection. The word alone carries weight. The sting of being dismissed, the ache of being overlooked, the frustration of doors slamming shut in your face. It felt personal, didn't it? It felt like loss, like failure, like you weren't enough. But what if I told you every rejection was never about breaking you? It was about carving you. Every person who walked away, every opportunity that slipped through your fingers, every no that left you questioning your worth. None of it was a mistake. None of it was random. They weren't turning you away. They were pushing you into alignment. See, the wrong places couldn't recognize your value because you weren't meant to fit in. You were meant to stand apart. Some of you are still grieving over doors that were never meant for you. You're still replaying conversations with people who were only temporary. You're still questioning why certain situations collapsed when you gave them everything you had. But hear this, rejection wasn't failure. Rejection wasn't a sign to stop. Rejection was redirection. The universe wasn't punishing you, it was protecting you. Think about it. Every major shift in your life was triggered by something you thought was a setback. That job you didn't get, it would have kept you small. That person who left, they were blocking your growth. That opportunity that disappeared, it wasn't aligned with your future. They thought walking away would break you. They thought their absence would weaken you. They thought you needed their approval, their validation, their acceptance. But what they didn't realize is that the moment they rejected you, they unknowingly pushed you towards something greater. And now, the shift has begun. You are stepping into the place where your purpose is actually needed, not where you're tolerated, but where you're valued. Not where you're overlooked, but where you're essential. Not where you have to beg for a seat at the table, but where you build the table yourself. The ones who walked away, they were fulfilling a divine script. They played their role. They did what they were supposed to do. They exited the story so the right people could step in. The universe removes what is not meant for you. The mistake most people make, they chase after what was removed. They try to reopen closed doors. They beg for people to return. They waste time questioning why certain things didn't work out. But the chosen ones, they understand that rejection is just another word for realignment. And You were being realigned this entire time. Think of a sculptor chiseling away at a raw stone. Every rejection was another piece being chipped off, shaping you, refining you, revealing what was already inside of you. They thought they were breaking you down, but they were actually revealing who you were meant to be, the weight you felt. That wasn't destruction, it was transformation. The people who left, they weren't removing something from you, they were making space for something greater. The setbacks, they weren't pushing you back, they were launching you forward. This is why the universe doesn't rush the process. This is why certain doors remained locked, no matter how hard you knocked. This is why certain people never fully saw your worth, no matter how much you proved yourself, because you weren't supposed to convince people to see your value. You weren't supposed to force doors open. You weren't supposed to settle for places that were never meant to hold you. The universe had something bigger planned. And now, the ones who rejected you are about to see exactly what they walked away from. Because your assignment, it was never in their hands. Your success, it was never dependent on their approval. Your destiny, it was never theirs to decide. They thought their rejection was the final word. They thought their absence would leave you lost. They thought their departure would slow you down. But now, watch their faces. Watch as they realize the very thing they dismissed is the thing that will rise higher than they ever imagined. Watch as they scramble to rewrite the story, pretending they always believed in you. Watch as their rejection turns into regret, because deep down they'll know they didn't break you, they didn't weaken you, they didn't stop you. They positioned you. And now they have to watch what happens next. Number 10. They thought you were invisible, but your name was moving without you. The most dangerous thing for your enemies, realizing that while they were trying to bury you, your name was already rising in places they could never reach. They thought ignoring you would erase you. They thought keeping you out of their circles would silence your presence. They thought if they dismissed you enough, you would eventually disappear. But what they didn't know, your name was never in their hands to control. While they were busy shutting doors in your face, the universe was whispering your name in rooms you didn't even know existed. You weren't forgotten, you weren't overlooked, you weren't left behind. You were being positioned. See, when something is truly valuable, it isn't thrown out for just anyone to find. It's protected, it's stored away, it's hidden until the right moment. And that's exactly what was happening to you. While you felt unseen, the right eyes were already watching. While you felt unheard, the right conversations were already happening. While you felt stuck, the right doors were already unlocking. Your waiting season was never wasted. It was a strategy. You weren't being denied, you were being preserved. You weren't being ignored, you were being prepared. You weren't losing time, you were gaining alignment. And now, the time for waiting is over. The whispers have turned into decisions. The conversations have turned into opportunities. The doors that were once sealed shut, they're opening without you even knocking. And the ones who doubted you, they have no choice but to watch, because here's the truth. Real power doesn't need permission. You don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. You don't need them to recognize what the universe has already confirmed. While they spent their time calculating how to block you, your name was moving on its own. And now they'll have to witness it firsthand. They assumed they had power over your path. They believed that by keeping you out, they were keeping you down. They believed their circles, their platforms, their resources were the only way forward. But they were wrong, because the kind of elevation you're stepping into, it doesn't come from playing their game. They built their walls, thinking it would keep you out. But what they didn't see coming? You were never meant to go through their doors. You were meant to walk into something higher. Your opportunities aren't coming from the places they tried to block. Your rise isn't coming from the hands they refuse to extend. Your name isn't being spoken in the circles they desperately try to control. It's moving above them, beyond them, without them. And that's what terrifies them the most. Because nothing is more unsettling than realizing you never needed them to begin with. They held onto their approval like a currency, believing you would crumble without it. But here you are, elevated, activated, unstoppable. Because when the universe declares you ready, no gatekeeper can say otherwise. At first, they'll pretend they don't see it. They'll act like it's not happening. They'll whisper among themselves, trying to make sense of what they swore would never happen. But deep down, they know. They know they counted you out too soon. They know they laughed too early. They know they underestimated what was happening behind the scenes. And now, the look on their faces says it all. Your name moved without their permission. Your success didn't require their endorsement. Your elevation happened outside of their reach. And that's the part that stings the most. Because if they had known, if they had realized how unstoppable you were becoming, they would have never dared to play against you. But it's too late for them now. The universe has spoken. The doors are opening. The tables are turning. And all they can do is watch. So let them watch. Let them scramble. Let them wonder how you made it. Because at the end of the day, the answer is simple. You were always destined for this. Number 11. They thought you were just another face in the crowd, but you were the answer all along. The most dangerous kind of power is the one people don't see coming. That's you. They looked at you and saw just another person, just another dreamer, just another name lost in the noise of the world. They dismissed you because they didn't recognize what you carried. They ignored you because your power wasn't loud, wasn't flashy, wasn't begging for attention. But here's what they failed to realize. You were never just a participant. You were the answer. And that's why your path was different. That's why you struggled more than most. That's why you felt resistance at every turn. Because those centers' solutions don't get to walk an easy road. They don't get shortcuts. They don't get comfort. They get refined. While others were handed success, you had to fight for every inch. While others moved freely, you had to navigate obstacles. While others were celebrated, you were tested again and again. Not because you were forgotten, not because you were unworthy, but because true power must be earned. You weren't just sent to exist. You weren't just sent to survive. You were sent to shift things. And that kind of responsibility, it demands preparation, because an answer that isn't ready is just another problem. So, the universe made sure you were ready. It stripped away your illusions. It crushed your ego. It forced you to rely on something deeper than external validation. It built you from the inside out, making sure that when the time came, when the world needed what only you could give, you wouldn't fold. And now, that time is here. The doors that were closed are opening. The spaces that once rejected you are calling your name. The very people who overlooked you will soon be forced to acknowledge what you've become. Because you weren't waiting on them. You were waiting on this moment. They thought you were lost, but you were being positioned. They thought you were struggling, but you were being strengthened. They thought you were stuck, but you were becoming unstoppable. And the most ironic part, the ones who doubted you are the ones who will need you. Because what you carry, it was never for you alone. That's why the journey was so difficult. That's why you had to go through everything you did. That's why you couldn't take the easy way out. You weren't just being prepared for yourself. You were being prepared for them. The ones who mocked you, the ones who questioned you, the ones who couldn't see your value. One day soon, they'll come looking for the very thing they once dismissed. And when they do, they'll realize too late. You were never just another participant. You were always the answer. And now, they have no choice but to watch you step into everything they swore would never happen. Because once the universe releases you, no force on earth can hold you back. Number 12. They thought the struggle would break you, but it was building you. They assumed your isolation was weakness. They thought your lack was failure. But what they never realized, the wilderness wasn't burying you, it was preparing you. They watched you walk alone. They saw you stripped of everything you once had: opportunities, support, recognition. They assumed you had been abandoned. They whispered that you must have done something wrong. But what they didn't understand, this wasn't punishment, this was leadership training. Before true elevation comes, there must be isolation. Before real power is placed in someone's hands, they must first learn to stand alone. You were being tested, not in front of an audience, not under bright lights, but in the silence, in the struggle, in the places where no one was watching. Because before the universe gives you everything, it needs to know, can you handle having nothing? Could you remain steady when the ground beneath you shifted? Could you keep moving forward when every door seemed locked? Could you trust the process when the process felt like suffering? You see, power doesn't corrupt, it reveals. And the universe had to make sure that when success came knocking, you wouldn't fold under the weight of it. If you can endure isolation, you can handle influence. If you can withstand silence, you can carry wisdom. If you can stay grounded in lack, you won't be reckless in abundance. And that's exactly why you had to go through it. They thought your wilderness was a sign of failure. It was proof you were being prepared for something greater. They thought the lack would make you desperate. It made you disciplined. They thought the waiting would break you. It built you. They thought the rejection would weaken you. It strengthened you. They only saw the suffering. They didn't see the strategy, because the truth is, most people can't handle what's coming next. They want the elevation, but they don't want the process. They crave the reward, but they won't endure the test. But you proved yourself. You stayed committed when quitting would have been easier. You stayed focused when distractions tried to pull you away. You stayed strong when the weight of it all should have crushed you. That's why you're not just stepping into a new season, you're leading it. Because the ones who survive the wilderness aren't just ready for success. They're ready to lead others through it. And now they'll see the difference. Because the people who never faced struggle, they break under pressure. They lose themselves when the spotlight turns on. They chase power but don't know how to carry it. But you've already been tested in fire. You've already learned how to stand alone. You've already learned how to keep going with no applause. You've already learned how to navigate storms most people would drown in. And now there's no stopping you. They thought the struggle meant you were stuck. They thought the isolation meant you were forgotten. They thought the delays meant you had failed. But all this time, you were being built into something unshakable. And now watch their faces. Watch them realize the strength you carry. Watch them scramble to understand how you survived. Watch them finally see you weren't just waiting, you were being prepared. Because when the universe sets someone apart, it's not for an ordinary path. It's for something greater. And now, you're stepping into it. Number 13. You were given questions no one else could answer. They watched you struggle and assumed you were just unlucky. They compared their lives to yours, wondering why your path seemed so much harder, why your battles seemed relentless, why you carried weight they never had to. What they failed to understand is that your test was never like theirs, because your calling isn't like theirs. Some people get multiple choice answers, a simple test, a clear road ahead. You were handed questions no one else could answer, questions that forced you to think, to endure, to evolve. You were given challenges that didn't come with instructions, storms that didn't come with a warning, battles that didn't come with an escape route. And still, you found a way. While others were cruising through their predictable, easy lives, you were being shaped in the fire. While they were taking shortcuts, you were being tested in ways they could never understand. Because what you were meant to carry is heavier, greater, and far beyond what they could handle. They laughed at your struggle because they couldn't comprehend it. They assumed you were failing because they had no frame of reference for your kind of test. But that's the thing. It wasn't their test to understand. It wasn't their burden to carry, their lesson to learn, or their wisdom to gain. And now they will see the difference. Because what you endured in silence, it's about to be the wisdom people seek out, the very same struggles they dismissed as misfortune. They'll soon realize we're training grounds for something far greater. See, not everyone is meant to lead. Not everyone is meant to rise above. Not everyone is meant to carry the kind of power you now hold. That's why their journey was different. That's why their lessons were easier. That's why they never had to go through what you did. Because the universe doesn't waste challenges on those who aren't built for something greater. You were never given an easy test because you were never meant for an easy path. Everything you learned in the struggle, every answer you had to fight for, every truth you had to discover the hard way, that wisdom is about to be sought after. The same people who dismissed you will start asking for your guidance. The same ones who ignored you will start leaning in to listen. The same ones who thought they were ahead will realize you were being shaped for something beyond their reach. Because experience can't be faked, strength can't be borrowed, wisdom can't be bought. And the kind you've gained? It was earned through battles, through isolation, through resilience that most will never understand. They thought they had the answers. They thought they knew what success looked like. They thought they were winning because their road was easy. But now their shortcuts are catching up to them. Their lack of depth is starting to show, and suddenly the one they underestimated is the only one with the answers. The wisdom you gained in private is about to be revealed in public. The struggles they mocked are about to become the lessons they desperately need, and that is the difference between you and them. They lived on the surface. You learned how to go deep. They relied on shortcuts. You learned how to endure. They sought approval. You learned how to move without it. Now, watch what happens next. Because the universe doesn't elevate the unprepared. It doesn't promote the weak. It doesn't place heavy crowns on the heads of those who can't carry them. You were tested differently because you were meant to stand differently. And now, the truth is undeniable. Everything you went through, every unanswered question, every battle, they all led to this moment. You weren't just tested, you were transformed. And now, the same ones who doubted you will have no choice but to witness your rise. Press the like button, subscribe, and drop the number 77 in the comments if you're ready to step fully into your power. Share this message to awaken more chosen ones, because the universe is moving and it's time.